Hi and welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to show you how I create my thumbnails for my YouTube channel. So I've got everything set up generally in Photoshop, so I'm going to show you exactly how I do that. So I'm going to open my file, which is like my template file, and it looks kind of scary to begin with. So I'm just going to switch everything off and show you exactly what I've got in this file. So I've got a series of groups here of all my layers. So let's go to background first. I'm going to click on this drop down. So inside of this group, I've just set up some color fill layers of all of my brand colors. So all these are color fill layers. So if I click on this layer, go down to this icon here, go to solid color, and then I can use this to select any color I like. Click OK. The colour will appear here. You can't see it because I've switched all these on. You can see it here. Now, if at any point I want to change this colour, I simply have to double click on this square and the colour picker will appear, and I can just simply scroll through and pick it. I can put the hex code in here, or I can go anywhere around a document and select a colour match. So those are made up of those colour fill layers there. And as you can see, these are the colours that I've chosen. What that enables me to do is have a mask over those layers, so I can cut and I can block out areas if I just want to use certain colours, and I'll come and do that at the end when I'll show you how to construct a thumbnail. I've also got this layer on here. This is just a shadow layer here, and all I've done is added a layer. So if I just add a layer here and just show you what that's made up of, I'll just take that off. So if I was to do the same here, just turn that flow down to about 3 or 4. I've got my foreground colour set to black on the brush tool, and then I literally just create a shadow. You can see I've overdone that. You can add a bit more of a vignette. If you overdo it, you can either use the opacity slider here just to decrease or increase that shadow depending on what you want. And that's just created a shadow effect to give the background a little more interest. So that's my background layers. And now to my graphics. So once again, these are all grouped together, and I've put all of these in individually. Then I've simply grouped together. If you want to group layers together, just select one, hold down the Shift key, select all of them, and then you just go to Command or Control G, or just right click and just go to Group from Layers. So the first one is artistic. Now this is a custom shape. So if I go to Edit, Free Transform, and then let's just zoom out, then this is literally a custom shape. And the way I've created that is if I go to this icon here, Custom Shapes, click on the little arrow and go down to Custom Shape Tool, go to the top here, click on this drop down arrow here, and you've got all of your custom shapes. Now you can import thousands of these free of charge from the internet. And I've got lots of themes at the bottom here. I've got leafy trees, wild animals, boats, lots of different things. But I've got a few patterns. I need to put some more in, but I've got a series of patterns across the top here, and these serve really well as just some background elements. And again, I'll show you how that works at the end. I'll switch that one on. This one is just an arrow. And again, this one's actually pink, so that's why you can't see it very well. Let's just switch off the background. And that's just an arrow, which is very useful for most of my videos. Again, that is a custom shape, and that arrow is here. So I always have the arrow in because I use it a lot. This one is another custom shape, another artistic effect, another blob. This one is actually a shape. I'm going to come back to that one, and this is another custom shape as well. So all of them are custom shapes except for this one. Let's just switch this one off. And that one is actually a rectangle. So I can just click and drag a rectangle, and in the corners you'll see these circles. Just click and drag and it will turn the corners into curves, and you can create one of these. I would call it a text box background. So let's just go back. So these are all shapes in here just to create some texture at the back of my thumbnails. Let's go to text. So these layers, I just have 3 layers of text, that's all. And I would just simply use those to click on one, press the T button on my keyboard, and then I can go ahead and change the text if I want to. And then if I go to the transform tool, free transform, then I can move this text, change it, change the size, the height, and move it around my thumbnail. Once you're done, just click OK. So those are my text layers. Next is my icons. Again, I have all of the icons I need for all the videos that I do. So today would be a Photoshop video, so I'd keep this layer visible and shut all the other layers off. And then I have all of my images of myself. These are all my selfies. And again, I can just switch them all off and just select the one I want. So it's really useful to have these just in there already. So I can just literally select one rather than find it all in my files. It's just to hand. So this is why I have this set up. It all looks a bit messy, but I know it works. I've basically got all the assets that I need for my thumbnail in my document. So let's go ahead and make today's thumbnail. So I'm going to switch all the layers off except for my background. My background at the moment, I'm not too worried about the colours. I'm going to probably put some layer masks in at the end, depending on how the final design looks. The first thing I generally start off is with my image, because I know roughly what the video is about. So this one is about this thumbnail. So I'm probably going to use this one at the bottom. I quite like this one. And then I can use my transform tool. I can go up to edit and go down to transform, free for transform, or I can go to Command or Control T on my keyboard. It's really important on this one to hold down your shift key because it will maintain the ratio. If not, you can see I'm going to make myself look really awful. So again, hold down that shift key and then we can just play around with this. So the next thing is to go down, switch on my Photoshop icon. I switched all the others off, so take those all off. And then I'm going to select my move tool here and just move that icon up there. Again, Command or Control T to transform it, holding down the shift key. So I'm just going to move it up here for the time being. If I want to have a white border around this icon, I just double click on the layer, on the grey section of the layer. Layer Styles panel will appear. And then I've got some strokes up here already. You can see this one's already formatted. If yours isn't formatted, it's something different, just click on the layer itself. Here you can change the colour of your stroke. You can change the size. You can also change whether that stroke is on the inside, the centre or the outside. I always have them on the outside. So if I grow the size of that stroke, you can see it doesn't impact on my icon. And then also you can change the opacity or transparency of that stroke as well. And then just click OK. As you can see here, the effect is below and you can switch that effect on or off if you want to, if you decide you no longer want it, or you can just simply delete it. So that's my icon in for now. Then my text. So for my text, I'm going to select this layer. I'm just going to select my move tool by clicking on V on my keyboard. And then change this word to how. Maybe put I next to that. How I. Click on this text here. Make my. And then let's just change that to thumbnails. There we go. And then the move tool, you'll need to move any of these layers around. Make sure you're on the layer that you want to move. An easy way to do that, if you don't know where the layer is hold down your Command or Control key and click somewhere on the text and it will select the layer for you and then you can move it. So on this layer, I'm going to just transform it just by making it a little bit bigger. And the thumbnails as well, just click the check icon or hit the enter key, it doesn't matter. Command or Control, click thumbnails, Command or Control T for the transform tool. And move this down here. I don't want it to be too wide because if it's too close to the edge or it's too close to something else, it tends to kind of interfere, because I actually want to put a background on this word because it's quite an important word. It's like the focal point of the video. So I'm going to leave the text for a second and I'm going to go down to my graphics. I'm going to switch them all off except for that rectangular shape with the curved edges. So I'm just going to click on that layer, Command and Control T. You can't see it at the moment because it's the same pink as the background. So I'm just going to move it out. Move it down. The reason you can see the left hand side of it is because I've got that shadow effect, which has made this pink slightly darker. So if I click the check box at the top, you can see that's where we have that color change. So I'm just going to leave that there now for now. Okay, so in my icons, I've just inserted a YouTube icon, but I need to make a slight adjustment. This was just free from the internet. So I just need to make an adjustment to this. I need to put a white background on it. So my layer is here, and I'm going to go to my shapes, click on the little arrow, and I'm going to select the rectangle tool. And then I'm just going to simply click and drag out a rectangle. And then I'm going to go to fill here and click on the white. And then let's get rid of that menu, and I'm going to drop it below that YouTube icon there. And then I'm going to hold down my shift key to select both of those layers, go to my move tool, go to align to center and align to middle, and then those two layers are selected, and I'm going to hit Command or Control G to group them together, which means once that group is selected, if I move it, it will move together. But also if I press Command or Control T for the transform tool, again I can transform the whole thing. So now it's just a question of me moving things around to decide where I want everything to finally lie. And what I might do actually is I've selected those two layers. If I now press my Command or Control and T, I've selected both of those layers. I can now turn it round slightly if I want there to be a slight angle on my text, which I do, so I'll keep that there. I'm also just going to move them both over to the right slightly. So now the thumbnail one has got the background on it, this pink background. So I'm actually going to move that pink background up to be below the thumbnail so that I can eventually group them together. So select them both, holding down the Command or Control key. And then I'm going to Command or Control group them together. So now they're just one group. But I can go in and edit it if I want to. So I'm going to leave it there for now and concentrate on the colours of the background. So generally when it comes to the background, I would try to split the background in half, and I usually do that by using the pen tool. So if I go to the pen tool and I just click at the bottom here, sometimes I'll cut through myself, so I use the pen tool to just create a curve that will just cut through me, and then I'll go all the way around, and then I'll right click, make selection, 0 pixels, and click OK. Then go down here to this layer mask here and go to edit, fill, and then fill with black, click OK. So you can see on the layer mask now that I've got black here, so I want to hide that section of this pink colour, allow the blue to come through. If I don't like the blue, I can just turn it off, see what the orange looks like, or turn the orange off and see what the yellow looks like. I quite like the yellow, so I'm going to click on this layer mask here, press Command or Control T, because I can now transform this layer mask by then moving it to the left or right, seeing if I prefer the look of that. I can move it up and down as well if I want the curves to be slightly different. And then if you've still got these lines, press Command or Control D to deselect them. And then I need to decide on this background of this text here. So I'm going to go back to text, back to this group here, back to this layer. Now if I hold down my Command or Control key and click on this layer, you can see it's now selected that shape. If I then go back to the shape tool here, I've got the ability to click on it and change it to any colour I like. If I can't find the colour I want, I'll go to this icon here, which brings up the colour picker with the slider and also the picker from here, Once I've done that, I press enter, deselect, Command or Control D, and then it's time to look at some graphics. So if I go to the graphics section, and then I can decide which section I want some graphics in, one or both sections. So this section here is looking quite bare. So I'm going to go through and select maybe this one here. So I'm going to press Command or Control T again. So make sure you're on the layer. I'm going to select my Move tool and then Command or Control T and stretch that out and hit the checkbox at the top here. And then I'm going to reduce the opacity right down to 0 and then just move it back steadily, see how it looks. I don't want it to interfere too much in the text, so move it to where I'm happy. Now you can see it's overflowing onto the yellow. If you want to keep it like that, that's fine. If not, we're going to steal this layer mask. So this layer mask, you can see hides the pink section here. Go back to the background texture that we've just moved. Create a layer mask. You can see the layer mask here. Then click on this layer mask. Hold down your Alt or Option key, click and drag that layer mask up to this layer here and drop. It will say replace layer mask, say yes. And you can see now that that textured background only applies to the pink section. So if I unlink the layer mask, but then click on the actual texture, go to my Move tool, and if I move it around, you can see now it won't go onto the yellow section because that's hidden by the black of the layer mask. And then I can make those adjustments. I can also rotate this. So make sure you're in the Transform tool again. So it doesn't quite suit what you're looking for. You can rotate it. Now you can add more textures to the yellow section if you want to, but I don't tend to do the textures on both sides. So what I do sometimes that I think is quite effective just to fill in some of these small gaps is that I'll go to the very top, add a layer, go to my brush tool, go to the brushes at the top here, click on the drop down and select a hard rounded pressure size brush. I'm going to select white, so click on this double-headed arrow. I'm going to change my brush size. I use my Alt and Control key and I'm going to change the size. If you want to change the size of your brush, just click up here and just move this slider. Make sure it's on 100% hardness, but I'm also going to make sure the flow is at 100 and I'm going to use this smoothing here. And the smoothing allows you to make some marks and it will smooth your movements down. So now I'm just going to make some little lines. Oh, I don't like those, they're a bit too curved. So just add some sort of movement lines just to the edge here. And then you can also use this brush tool if you want to create some extra interest. I know this goes all the way over, but then you just have to move the layer mask down to below the graphics and it will go behind all of your other layers. So once I'm happy with my thumbnail, I'm going to go to File, Save as Copy. I'm going to change the file format to a JPEG. I'm then going to rename it. Then I'll save it to my file and then just press save. Then when I go to quality, I'll make sure it's at 9. Any higher than 9 and YouTube won't accept it because the file's too large. Baseline optimized and then click OK. And there you have your thumbnail. So don't forget to make this as quick as possible and efficient as possible. Get all of those assets into your file so when you begin, you've got everything there. Now I've saved this as a copy and that's vital because if you don't, you're going to save everything as you see it here. So then when I close it down, it will ask me, do I want to save it? And I don't, because if I save it as this file, it's going to look like this when I upload it next time. So I don't save it and I've got my original file left. So I hope that's helped you today. If it has, please like and subscribe and have a great day.